This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
You're listening to the #1 Nielsen rated. The News Hour with Noam Laden. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the news with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Friday, June 6th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Could see a pop-up thunderstorm this afternoon, high 84. And then the weekend, that's not so great, I got to tell you. Saturday, showers in the morning, thunderstorms possible in the afternoon, high 74. And then Sunday, we'll have sunshine in the morning, but rain is possible in the afternoon, high 75. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it's 71 and clear in Sleepy Hollow up in Westchester County, 67 and partly cloudy in East Brunswick over in New Jersey, and it's 73 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Another helicopter has to make an emergency landing. Some LIRR workers are caught cheating the system. A Newark air traffic controller has a warning you want to hear. High school seniors have too much fun on Jones Beach. And what's up with the Switch console sold at a Staten Island store? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. What's it with these helicopter accidents, almost accidents, another one of those happening at Floyd Bennett Field. A helicopter had to make an emergency landing there yesterday. Police say it happened around 4 o'clock. Both the pilot, passenger, thank God, got out safely, not injured. But here we go again. Lots of talk about those tourist helicopters buzzing the Hudson. Now you have this almost crash at Floyd Bennett Field. And people in the neighborhood, they saw all kinds of action, knew something was up.
I was on my way to Aviator. So I don't see police machine or police cars or anything, so just helicopters. So I assume something happened. When you see helicopters, it means something.
Yeah, it usually does. FDNY says mechanical issues prompted the emergency landing. FAA, a spokesman sending us a statement saying it was a Bell 407 helicopter that landed at Floyd Bennett Field. The aircraft registration, they gave us that. It doesn't really mean a whole lot, but the FAA says, of course, they will investigate this landing, this emergency landing at Floyd Bennett Field. 5:02. In New Jersey, a man found dead yesterday. Then a neighborhood was put on lockdown. James Flippin tries to make sense of it all.
Well, first a man's body was found on White Street in Howell Township, Monmouth County. Then cops began to investigate in several different locations. Sometime after noon on Thursday, at least one person was apparently taken into custody. The Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office saying multiple agencies were involved. We do know cops had said earlier in the day there was no ongoing threat to the public. At one point, the story had it that a murder suspect had barricaded him or herself inside a home, drawing out SWAT teams. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
5:03, detectives looking for the gunman still in these two deadly shootings that took place in Manhattan Wednesday into Thursday. One of them by the Port Authority bus station, the other in Chelsea, leaving two men dead, and it has people in the neighborhood on edge.
I'm a bit afraid now. I've been living here for almost 3 years now, and I've never seen nothing like this on these streets.
Police say a man shot and killed by 42nd and 9th Avenue. That was 11 o'clock. Then at about an hour and a half earlier, a man identified as 21-year-old Rajesh Cohen was shot and killed on West 17th Street in Chelsea, right in front of his apartment. Police don't think the two murders are linked, but don't have a whole lot more information on the motive and have made no arrests. All right, what do you make of the Elon Musk-Donald Trump fight? Elon Musk going pretty low in his his feud with President Trump. This feud is all about the big, beautiful bill. Elon Musk doesn't like it, wants to sink it. So yesterday he went on X, which of course he owns, Twitter, if you know it as that, and says that we have not learned a whole lot more about the infamous sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein because it would implicate the president. So he goes on to Twitter and he says, time to drop the really big bomb. And this is, he says, the really big bomb involves President Trump in the Epstein files. He then puts another tweet up. He says, this is the real reason that they have not been made public. And then he tells the president to have a nice day. So the Justice Department, you'll remember back in February, released more than 100 pages of Epstein's phone contacts and flight logs in what was supposed to be a phase 1 disclosure. And then we didn't really hear a whole lot more about it. Now, aides apparently privately have acknowledged that the president's association with Epstein would resurface in a fuller release of files, but they say he did no wrong. But you have Musk saying that there is something wrong. They're the president. Trying to figure this all out. So is White House correspondent John Decker.
And I asked the president this question for his reaction to what Elon Musk had been posting on social media this week. And he gave me an 8-minute long answer.
Yeah, so, they were close. It doesn't seem like they're very close anymore.
He gave me a reaction that I think was like Donald Trump, from the heart. It was honest. It was how he felt. And he concluded his remarks by saying he's very disappointed in Elon.
Yeah, so that was John Decker at the White House yesterday. Here's what the president had to say about his feud with Elon Musk.
You saw the words he had for me, and he hasn't said anything about me that's bad. I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill, because the bill is incredible.
Yeah, so you hear there, the president says, okay, come after me, just don't come after my big, beautiful bill. He also says Musk is upset with him because there are cuts to electric vehicle mandates in this bill, and that he's disappointed about that.
Elon's upset because we took the EV mandate, and which was a lot of money for electric vehicles.
And back to this White House correspondent, John Decker. He says the president doesn't want this feud to get out of hand.
Oh, it is getting personal. It's high school level personal. When you really think about it, it's unusual for the president to respond to attacks from anybody.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we will anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. Implicating him in the Epstein files. By the way, Steve Bannon goes online yesterday. He said they should support Elon Musk, who, of course, originally from South Africa. WABC News Time 5:09. Let's go out to Portland, Oregon. The FBI says they stopped a mass shooting at this is Portland, Washington. At a Washington State mall was prevented. The FBI agent out there says they learned of this threat against the Three Rivers Mall, and they were able to stop it. No, I was right. This is in Washington State.
The plans included precise details, including annotated schematics, a clear route to follow, weapons to be used, and a wardrobe to wear.
So the gunman, identified as a juvenile from Oregon, police say he had the means, a map, a specific plan. He was allegedly going to use a chlorine bomb to cause panic and then shoot people in the mall as they fled.
Suspect pledged allegiance to several online nihilistic violent extremist groups and ideologies.
It's amazing they caught on to him. They did not give us all the details of how they found it and how they stopped this mass shooting, but they say no doubt he would have carried out the attack if they hadn't found him first.
This case had every indication that it was imminent, and we believe the FBI, along with our partners, prevented a tragic event in our community.
Yeah, nice job done by the FBI. He also apparently allegedly planned to kill himself after this attack. 5:10. Fire marshals in Philadelphia investigating the cause of just a massive blaze that consumed 40 SEPTA buses. Those are the public buses in the Philly system in a storage yard. Broke out yesterday in the Nicetown section of Philly. Smoky 3-alarm fire before it was contained. Air quality was a big concern for a while.
We don't really believe that there's anything majorly harmful in the air. It's just that it's a precautionary measure to tell people to turn off HVAC systems or put their windows down and things of that nature.
Now, the only upside of this story is apparently most of these buses that were set on fire were about to be decommissioned. 5:11. Congressional Hispanic Caucus calling for ICE detention oversight after migrants at a Miami detention center sent out an SOS message to them. Congressman Adriano Espaillat, of course, from the Bronx, says they're going to hold the for-profit prison detention center that has these ICE detainees accountable.
So this is a crisis where we must determine whether these centers are motivated by the profit margins that they make, and whether due process is being dramatically and vulgarly violated.
Detainees talk about not being able to take a shower and not being able to get a blanket to sleep in bed at night.
And making sure that we use the powers of oversight to protect the rights of all. This is not happening at the moment. What is happening, in my view, is just sinister, cruel, and inhumane.
This prison in Miami is operated by a private contractor, has long faced scrutiny for overcrowding and poor conditions. 512 immigration advocates speaking out after President Trump signed that order yesterday, banning travelers from a dozen countries, including Haiti and Iran. Here's somebody of the Immigration Caucus.
I think it's restrictive, and I think it's replicating tactics of other countries, for example, like Cuba, that restricts the travel of its citizens.
Now, the president says the recent terror attack in Boulder highlights the dangers posed by foreign nationals, along with those who overstay their visas. And he says he picked these countries because they are terrible at apparently going through the backgrounds of the people they send here. And then when we want to send them back, they're not so quick to take them back.
I would suspect that this would get ultimately enjoined by a court because of its broad scope, because it's likely to be found discriminatory.
Now, in the 5:30 hour, the second half of this show, you'll hear from a local congressman, a Republican one, who's on board with these immigration advocates, who says this ban has gone too far. That coming up about 5:35 this morning. 5:13, police in San Antonio addressing claims that the King of the Hill voice actor, Jonathan Joss, was killed because of his sexual orientation. Chief William McManus says they've been flooded with calls demanding a hate crime investigation.
In Texas, hate crimes are not separate charges. Instead, they are addressed through sentencing enhancements.
He says they're working with arson investigators to get more information about this blaze that gutted Joss's home. That was back in January. The actor claimed it was burned down because he was gay. The chief would not speculate on whether the two incidents are related.
That hate crime designation is determined at sentencing. Our homicide detectives are continuing to pursue every lead in this case to ensure that we understand the full picture of what led up to the senseless murder.
Joss was best known for voicing John Redcorn on the long-running animated series. 5:14. The man accused of injuring 15 pro-Israel demonstrators with Molotov cocktails in Boulder, Colorado on Sunday was previously denied a gun purchase due to his immigration status. It was at Shields gun range, Colorado Springs. The local gun owner there says he's happy that the current background check system seems to be working, that this guy was denied a gun.
Fill out the questionnaire, and then they sign it and date it. From there, if the questionnaire is filled out properly, we submit that data to Colorado Bureau of Investigation.
Mohammed Solomon, an asylum seeker from Egypt, failed background checks when trying to buy a handgun and apply for a concealed carry permit late last year.
Two people shopping together, one person doing all the talking, the other individual lack of willingness to manipulate or show safe operation of that firearm that they're attempting to purchase.
Now, of course, he was still able to carry out his attack, but obviously it would have been more deadly if he had a gun in his hand. He told investigators he used explosives because he could not get his hands on a gun. Solomon entered the U.S. on a tourist visa 2022, and it had expired. His family now, the White House would like to send his family back to his native Egypt, but a judge has gotten in the way of that so far. We'll watch that story, and of course, as more details come in, we'll pass them on to you. 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. A shocker in the NBA Finals last night, Justin, eh?
Oh, yeah, last second, man. I mean, the Pacers, they didn't have a lead all game. This was their only lead. Tyrese Halliburton's 21-foot jumper, 0.3 seconds left, gives Indiana their first and only lead of the game and a 1-0 series lead. They win Game 1 of the NBA Finals last night in OKC on the road. 111-110. Thank you to Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, Knicks fans here in New York not very fond of the Pacers star, but last night he was the difference maker for Indiana. They take a 1-0 series lead in the NBA Finals. Staying here with the Finals theme in the NHL tonight, 8 p.m., the Panthers and the Oilers. They'll have Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton, of course, leads that series 1-0. We'll head to the Diamond here. Noam Laden in the Bronx. Max Fried allowed only an infield single to Jose Ramirez. 3 batters into the game in 6 innings of work to bounce back from his first loss. And the Yankees beat the Cleveland Guardians 4-0. Cody Bellinger hit a 2-run homer and added an RBI single to contribute to the win. Good for New York's 16th victory in their last 22 games. Jazz Chisholm Jr. added a late run-scoring single. Aaron Judge had a hit in his only at-bat, reaching base 3 times. He was intentionally walked twice for the second time this season. Judge ended the night with a .392 average. Fried had his 4th scoreless outing this season, allowed 1 hit for the second time this season. He struck out 7, walked 2, and retired 15 of the final 16 hitters he faced after getting into trouble in the first. I mean, I watched Garrett Cole win a Cy Young last year,
right?
And he was never as dominant as I'm watching Max Fried go out there on a consistent basis every 5 days. Yeah, I mean, this guy is mowing down opposing lineups like at will. And he is having just an incredible first season with the New York Yankees.
What's his record now?
He's 8-1 on the year.
Okay.
8-1 on the year. He's got a sub-2 ERA. It's him and Tariq Skubal from the Detroit Tigers, really, that are neck and neck for the American League Cy Young Award.
Go home to mommy.
Go home to mommy, Tariq. Come on. Up next for the Yanks, Will Warren will start tonight's opener of a 3-game set against the visiting Boston Red Sox. First meeting between the rivals this season. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium in Los Angeles. The Mets dropped the finale of their 4-game series against the Dodgers. The final score 6-5, splitting the set 2 games apiece. Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte hit early homers, and David Peterson pitched 7 effective innings of 3-run ball for the Mets, who lost for only the 3rd time in 12 games. Francisco Lindor sat out with a broken right pinky toe after getting hit by a pitch on Wednesday. We'll keep you updated on his status. Up next for the Mets, Kodai Senga will start tonight's series opener against the lowly Rockies. First pitch is scheduled for 8:40 p.m. from Colorado. And to the NFL, lastly here, Noam Laden, Aaron Rodgers finally has a home, agreed to terms on a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The team announced yesterday, ending months of uncertainty around his future and uniting the future Hall of Famer with a club that desperately needs a quarterback. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 5:20. President Trump says former President Biden's alleged auto pen use is the biggest scandal in the last 100 years. He was in the Oval Office yesterday talking about the fact that he believes Biden did not have much of an idea of what was going on during his last months, maybe years in the White House.
I didn't think he knew what the hell he was doing. So, it's just one of those things, one of those problems. We can't ever allow that to happen to our country.
The president wants a probe into who knew what about Biden's mental state and who was in charge of that auto pen, as the former president, signed all kinds of bills towards the end of his administration.
And I know some of the people that worked with him, radical left, horrible people. And I could give you the name of some of the people that used the auto pen because I'm here. And I ask questions about people that were here also. There are a lot of people that were here when that happened, and they're here right now. And they'll answer your question very accurately. I know some of the people that use that auto pen, and those are not the people that had the same ideology as Joe Biden. These were radical left lunatics that used that, and they didn't get elected. He didn't get elected either, actually.
Okay. The president also talking about his big, beautiful bill yesterday that's now before the Senate, where lawmakers are hashing out the details. Texas Senator John Cornyn is confident that the funding to pay his state back for border security efforts will survive as part of this bill, and that's why he's on board.
Getting Texas repaid for the money that Texas taxpayers paid to secure the border during the tenure of President Biden.
And he predicts that funds for other states that send their National Guard troops to the southern border will also see some repayment.
We've been working hand in glove with the president and Governor Abbott to get this accomplished. Texas taxpayers should not have to pay to secure the border, which is by definition a federal responsibility.
President Trump yesterday talking about his talks with China over trade. He says those conversations are going well. He spoke with Chinese President, I should say, Xi, yesterday morning.
We had a very good talk, and we've straightened out any complexity. It's very complex stuff, and we straighten it out.
And the president says teams from both the U.S. and China are going to meet soon to hash this out behind closed doors.
We're going to have Scott and Howard and Jameson will be going and meeting with their top people and continue it forward. But no, I think we have everything. I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal. We have a deal with China, as you know, but we were straightening out some of the points having to do mostly with rare earth, magnets, and some other things.
Now, Trump says the conversation was so good that she invited him and the First Lady to come to China. Trump says he gave the same offer to President Xi. 523. Members of one of the largest groups representing Italian Americans got a warm welcome at the Vatican yesterday from the Pope himself. Pope Leo met with board members of the National Italian American Foundation and offered them a blessing.
I pray that each of you and your families will always cherish the rich spiritual and cultural legacy that you have inherited from those who have gone before you.
Yeah, the Pope saying that a hallmark of many Italian immigrants was their Catholic faith.
This faith sustained them in difficult moments, even as they arrived with a sense of hope for a prosperous future in their new country.
You know, it's still amazing to think that the Pope is American, right? Usually you can't understand a lick of what they're saying, but this guy, he talks like us.
A hallmark of many who immigrated to the United States from Italy was their Catholic faith, with its rich traditions of popular piety and devotions that they continued to practice in their new nation.
I don't know if you saw this earlier this week. A group from Philly met with Pope Leo, and they gave him a Villanova hat. That's where he graduated from, and he put it on for a little bit, and then he took it off and handed it back to them. 525. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says he believes NATO allies will agree to a call for them to sharply increase their defense spending. Correspondent Williams Denzelo has more from Brussels.
Speaking to reporters before the start of the defense ministers' meeting, Pete Hegseth said he was here to continue the work that President Trump had started. The US president has long held that NATO allies aren't spending enough on defense and calls for annual spending to rise from 2% to at least 5%.
And the defense secretary says the agreement with NATO, it has to happen before a top-level NATO summit takes place later this month.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says Thursday's meeting is a chance to focus on targets as part of a new defense investment plan. He says the goal is to make NATO stronger, fairer, and more lethal.
WABC News Time 525. Economic uncertainty taking a toll now on retirement accounts.
According to Fidelity Investments, which is the largest provider of 401k plans in the U.S., average balances fell 3%, while the average individual retirement account balance fell 4%. The findings come even as savings rates hit a record high in the quarter at a combined 14.3%. The analysis was reported on the heels of news that U.S. gross domestic product shrank 0.3% during the first quarter of this year. I'm at Mattinson.
Cincinnati-based Procter & Gamble, they just announced they're set to cut 6% of their workforce.
The maker of Pampers, diapers, and Tide detergent will get rid of 7,000 jobs over the next 2 years as it restructures. Executives at a conference in Paris on Thursday said this approach is not new and is meant to accelerate the company's current strategy. In April, Procter & Gamble said it would raise the price of some of its products, and it was set to make every move it could to offset the impact of tariffs. I'm at Mattinson.
You're listening to the #1 Nielsen rated. The News Hour with Noam Laden. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, June 6th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Could see a pop pop-up thunderstorm this afternoon, high 84. And then the weekend, it's not so great. Saturday, showers in the morning, thunderstorms possible in the afternoon, high 74. And then Sunday, we'll have sunshine in the morning, but rain is possible in the afternoon, high 75. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 71 and clear in Sleepy Hollow up in Westchester County, 67 and partly cloudy in East Brunswick over in New Jersey, and it's 72 and partly cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. 5:37 now. I was watching this Newark air traffic controller as he spoke to CBS last night, talking about some of the failures that have happened in the communication booth in the air traffic control tower at Newark Airport over the last couple months. His name is Jonathan Stewart. He's an Air Force veteran. He is on leave because he says the job is so incredibly stressful. They've had those moments where they lost radar for 90 seconds. He said in that moment, he thought planes might crash into each other. And he has a couple interesting messages. He says he's telling his family right now not to fly out of Newark. Now, this is somebody who worked as an air traffic controller at Newark up until recently, is on leave, unsure whether he wants to go back to the job, and he's telling his own family members not to fly out of Newark. Here's what he told CBS.
I personally am not going to fly out of Newark. To each their own. Why not? Because I'm not satisfied with the level of safety. Okay, and until I see it in action and I know for sure that the steps that are being taken will effectively mitigate risk to as little as possible.
Yes, so he says the job is incredibly stressful. No doubt it is. I mean, you are in charge of people's lives, making sure the traffic goes where it's supposed to go. He says at some points when the system has been down, he's been using pen and paper as a backup to tell these pilots where to go. He says he doesn't want to work that way anymore. And he wants to point out that he hopes things are going in the right direction with the new Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, saying he's going to fix all that's wrong. But he says it's unfair to blame the Biden administration for what's wrong. He says the blame goes back just years and years.
It's not fair to blame the Trump administration. It's not fair to blame the Biden administration. If you're going to blame somebody, you blame Reagan and everybody after him, because nobody has done anything meaningful up until this point.
I should point out the head of United Airlines, their central hub is Newark Airport, coming out this week saying he believes things are safe at Newark and that they've discounted flights out of the airport so you can get a good deal right now. 5:41, Congressman Mike Lawler, who's from the Hudson Valley, has come out against Haiti's inclusion on President Trump's travel ban. The Republican believes this will cause problems for people in his community. He has Rockland County, the counties that he represents, are homes to one of the largest Haitian communities in the area. So he's calling on President Trump to take Haiti off this list.
The United States can help play an integral role in addressing some of the challenges on the ground, including the gun trafficking that is emanating from the U.S. Into Haiti.
Yeah, he says cutting off Haiti will make things worse for the families with loved ones back in Haiti and for the families who are here already. Haitian New Yorkers thanking Mike Lawler for standing up.
And there's no concrete evidence behind why he's doing it. So he's just doing it. And then when it's a failed policy, then he's going to turn around and fix it. But how about the people that lost their lives?
More than 1 million Haitian Americans already live in the U.S., many fleeing a homeland that's been plagued by gang violence for decades now. A man shot his girlfriend and her 10-year-old daughter to death. This was in Hamilton, New Jersey yesterday. He then turned the gun on himself and killed himself. This was bullets flying in this neighborhood in Hamilton Township. Police were called in. When they arrived at the scene, they found everybody suffering from gunshot wounds. There was not much they could do. All three pronounced dead at the scene. The girl's father has identified the 10-year-old as Evangelina Velasquez. So this was his only daughter. His wife was dating the guy who then shot and killed her, his daughter, and then himself. So here's the father who says this was his only daughter, and he's just sort of shocked by everything that's taken place over the last 24 hours.
My only daughter, strong like me. Just feel terrible that adults bring their kids into
into their situations. When I was younger, I wasn't very patient. And through her, I learned to have patience.
Yeah, I mean, I'll state the obvious here, but if you're angry at your wife or yourself, just leave her. I mean, but I guess it's easier for me to say. So she was a fourth grader. I mean, just terrible. She loved to swim, active. I mean, people in the neighborhood loved this girl. And, this boyfriend took her out.
She was always very clever, strong fighter.
Yeah, now that father is here to grieve. The Mercer County Homicide Task Force, they're continuing their investigation this morning. It was supposed to be a carefree day at the beach on Jones Beach yesterday, but last night, police were called in, forced to break up a crowd of about 500 teenagers who had gathered at Jones Beach for what was an unofficial senior cut day. You might remember that back when you were in high school. We used to do that as well. But this senior cut day got out of hand, and the high schoolers who showed up said it got frightening for a little while.
It was scary. Everybody was just going crazy, so the cops came. We just see people fighting with boxing gloves, like a whole crowd. Everybody started fighting because there's a lot of people, and so there was like 3 different fights.
Who brings boxing gloves to Senior Skip Day? They were drawn to the beach, these high school seniors, by a social media post that said there was going to be a big party for Senior Cut Day, and that's all of a sudden, there's 500 people on the beach. You might have heard the helicopters overhead. Those were police choppers telling officers what was going on the ground.
The beach was never like this. There weren't always fights. We always came here as kids. It was so calm, but now it's just like crazy.
Now, police did make one arrest for menacing and disorderly conduct. The incident at Jones Beach comes less than a week after officials in nearby Long Beach closed their beach preemptively to prevent a similar gathering. They had seen that social media post before the teens showed up. All right, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam. We'll start here on the diamond in the Bronx. Max Fried allowed only an infield single. Jose Ramirez 3 batters into the game in 6 innings of work to bounce back from his first loss, and the Yankees beat the Cleveland Guardians 4-0. Cody Bellinger hit a 2-run homer, added an RBI single to contribute to the win. Good for New York's 16th victory in their last 22 games. Jazz Chisholm Jr. added a late run-scoring single, and Aaron Judge had a hit in his only at-bat, ended the night with a .392 average. Up next for the Yanks, Will Warren will start tonight's opener of a 3-game set against the visiting Boston Red Sox. The first meeting between the rivals this season. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium in Los Angeles. The Mets dropped the finale of their 4-game series against the Dodgers. The final score 6-5, splitting the set 2 games apiece. Pete Alonso, Brendan Nimmo, and Starling Marte hit early homers, and David Peterson pitched 7 effective innings of 3-run ball for the Mets, who lost for only the 3rd time in 12 games. Francisco Lindor sat out with a broken right pinky toe after getting hit by a pitch on Wednesday. We'll keep you updated on his status. Up next for the Mets, Kodai Senga will start tonight's series opener against the lowly Rockies. First pitch is scheduled for 8:40 p.m. from Colorado. To the NBA, your final from Oklahoma City last night. The Pacers edging out the Thunder 111-110 in Game 1 of the NBA Finals thanks to Tyrese Halliburton's 21-foot jumper with 0.3 seconds left to give Indiana its first and only lead of the game and a 1-0 series lead to boot. Game 2 is at Oklahoma City come Sunday night. To the NHL, 8 p.m. tonight, the Panthers and Oilers will get underway for Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton, of course, leading that series right now, 1-0. And finally here from the NFL, Aaron Rodgers has agreed to terms on a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Finally, the team announced yesterday, ending months of uncertainty around his future and uniting the Hall of Famer with a club that desperately needs a quarterback. The news comes more than 80 days since the start of free agency and 70 days after Rodgers visited the Steelers. Sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter that Rodgers plans to fly to Pittsburgh today and join the Steelers ahead of next week's mandatory mini camp. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. A worker was killed in a partial building collapse in Marine Park, Brooklyn yesterday. This happened on Quinton Road. A shed attached to this 2-story mixed-use building, which was under construction, partially collapsed. This 43-year-old worker was apparently making repairs to a restaurant and installing refrigeration on the first floor when it all took place.
They were currently renovating the restaurant on the first floor. They were doing installation or additions. They were actually installing a refrigeration unit in the area when collapse occurred. So the roof came down as one piece, I'm going to say it's about a 5-inch slab of concrete that's about 10 feet by 12 feet, came down and pinned the victim.
Yeah, and that worker was discovered under that heavy slab of concrete. The cause of the collapse, it's under investigation, but investigators say they had no permits for the work that they were doing with the Department of Buildings. Up to the Bronx, where 2 teenagers who were just innocent bystanders shot there yesterday afternoon. Surveillance video shows the moments the bullets flew. This was East 172nd Street. A gunman just casually walks up, fires at people right in the middle of the day, and then runs away.
When I heard those shots, I ran up here. So I didn't even bother to go there to see who was it.
They've been shooting since last night. They escalated to in the morning.
So they think this is gang warfare, but they're not really sure yet. The 2 17-year-olds who apparently had nothing to do with this, they were taken to Columbia Presbyterian, expected to survive. One was shot in the neck. The gunman, he is still on the loose at this hour. Over in New Jersey today, Hudson County Sheriff Officer Justin Rivera will be remembered at his funeral. He fell, this was a week ago today, that he fell from 9 stories up in a building in Jersey City. Family, friends, colleagues getting together to remember him.
That was my brother. His parents pretty much raised me. We spent pretty much the course of the last 20 plus years talking to each other every day. We grew up together.
It was just an awful scene. Some eyewitnesses describing it last Friday. They hear a glass break. He falls 9 stories to his death. Now, the investigation so far, they think it's just an accident, but they don't know 100% what took place, or at least they're not telling us just yet.
We lost a family member, and we're all one family, So it's very difficult right now.
I did not think that this many people would come out or would show up. The amount of love that it just shows you how much people loved Justin.
And what makes the story just even more awful, he's just 29 years old. Funeral is a little bit later this morning. 5:52. Another sighting of black bears. It's happening all over the tri-state. This latest one in downtown Ridgewood, where they're not used to seeing black bears walk around. There's lots of wooded areas there, people's backyards, but this one was really close to the downtown area. All kinds of neighbors calling each other, letting them know that there's a bear on the loose.
It was just basically walking towards the other neighbor's yard. People are always out walking their dogs. So, those of us with little kids and little dogs, just keep an extra eye out.
Yeah, neighbors were updating Facebook pages, chat text chains, sightings not unheard of in Ridgewood, New Jersey, but steps from downtown, that has folks on edge.
Everything we're reading is saying that they're not dangerous to people. That said, I don't think we really want our kids to encounter a bear. But at this point, we're more curious than worried, I would say.
Now, bears have been spotted all 21 counties in New Jersey now. Now, attacks on humans are extremely rare, but you don't really want to face a bear if you don't have to. But if you do, they say never make eye contact with the bear, make a lot of noise, don't run away. Apparently, that's the worst thing you can do, because then all of a sudden they look at you as prey. So, but of course, in that moment, the first thing you want to do is, of course, run away. But they say, no, don't run away. Don't make try to make eye contact and try to make a lot of noise. Hopefully that'll scare the bear off. 5:53. Out to Long Island, 4 LIRR employees have been disciplined now after allegedly taking part in a time theft scheme at the railroad's Hillside Maintenance Facility. The alleged misconduct involves workers leaving before the end of their scheduled shifts while colleagues clock them out, making it appear they had worked the full day, including overtime hours. We've seen this before. It's not the first time. The investigation began after the LIRR noticed discrepancies in an electrician's time records. And you can imagine for people who pay a lot of money to ride the LIRR, they don't want to hear this.
The tickets are so expensive. And so many of the passengers make less money than the LIRR employees do. And so they get upset when they see stories like this.
Now, they haven't been fired, which is a question a lot of us would say, well, why not? That's stealing. But okay, 3 of the 4 workers have received disciplinary suspensions ranging from 4 to 9 months. The 4th employee apparently retired before disciplinary measures could be imposed, but was barred from cashing out his remaining sick time as a result. Some strange moments at a GameStop on Staten Island yesterday. So I was telling you earlier, the Nintendo Switch came out yesterday. There's just people trying to get their hands on this console. It sells for about $500. There's not enough of them to go around. That's how big the demand was for it. And so at the Staten Island store, like the other electronic stores across the tri-state, there were long lines outside the store, GameStop. And when people got home to open up the box, they were all excited they'd gotten their hands on one because most places ran out. They found that there were scratches on the screen.
I opened it and I saw the little marks on it. Two nice little cracks right in the screen. It's the staple. The staple lines up perfectly with where the holes are. I was just kind of like annoyed only because I know how hard it is to get one, and the fact that I even got one and then that happened was kind of like a real pain.
Yeah, so apparently a worker who was selling these consoles to people in Staten Island was taking the receipt and stapling it to the box, and in doing so, that staple went through the box and scratched the screen.
I had texted my friend and I was like, hey, does yours have this too? He's like, yeah, mine has that too.
Yeah. So here you are, you waited all night or, it camped out to get it, and then there's a scratch in the screen. Now, I will say GameStop has come through. They say they're going to make it right. The store's owner came out, saw that there were a lot of people coming back to the store to return these consoles.
The store owner, she's actually a really nice woman. She came out with a clipboard and she was taking names and numbers. They're calling another store to bring some in, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, GameStop doing the right thing. By the way, just so you have a sense of how big this is, the original Switch, 150 million of them were sold. So Nintendo expects they'll sell about 15 million right away of the Switch 2, again, which retails for about $500.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?